we could start the way like the My Favorite Murder ladies do, which is
Jump right in.
start talking. Like,
Yeah.
hey, going to the beach this weekend.
Okay.
I wish I had some more entertaining. Oh, I'm rewatching Friends. Maybe watching Friends. Back in the 90s. Did it start in the 90s?
Yes.
You had to
I
be
don't know.
you kind of had to be home to see it.
You definitely had to be home to see it.
So I mean,
On
I guess
Thursday
you could
nights.
record it on, a VHS, I guess. But yeah.
Oh God, VHS.
So it was never one of those things where like I saw episode 1 and all the way through. I'm sure there are lots of episodes I haven't seen. I saw Friends in the 90s. I was aware of Friends in the 90s. If I was home and it was on, I'd watch it.
Sure.
I wasn't going to cancel plans.
Of course.
Friends. I'm watching Friends at night, and that has been kind of goofy.
Yeah.
And ridiculous. And there was a whole plot line centered around Monica and her boyfriend's answering machine and calling it and putting in the code and listening to messages. And I'm like, I remember that. They've got these giant cordless phones.
Oh God.
They had a piece of furniture to sell, and they took out an actual ad in a newspaper.
In the newspaper.
Paid like $300 to do it.
Right.
I thought it was going to be more timeless, and it's like opening a time capsule. You're listening to Weirdly Human.
Okay, so we're going to take a little walk on the darker side with this episode.
No, we're not.
Oh, a little bit. Hello. Dark for me. How about
Okay, I thought we were simply talking about the contagion effect and the magical transference of...
Well, okay, we're going to get to that. But we started with the idea of this murderabilia, which when we first discussed this topic, I was on the side that no one's going to want this stuff. And, I kind of doubled down on my theory, and I tried to do some research, and I was wrong. And, I hate to be wrong.
Do you ever walk through a store and see Crocs and think, no one's going to buy those? Clearly someone is.
Clearly. Lots of people are.
Lots of people are. They're in right now.
Not on Crocs, but, like Precious Moments figurines. Yes. Who would buy those?
We all have mother-in-laws.
When we were first talking about this, and I do want to get to the whole contagion transference things, because...
Wait a minute. Have you heard of ear gauging?
Of course.
Oh, we're going to get more hate mail right now.
Yeah.
But when you see that, it's like, nobody would do that. But lots of people are doing that.
Lots and lots of people are doing that.
And I think that, okay, I'm not saying because you gauge your ears that you purchase memorabilia from serial killers.
Thank you for defining the memorabilia. Bravo, you.
But I think it's a similar kind of shock value kind of thing that people enjoy doing.
I think that's one theory behind it.
Because I don't see you gauging your ears.
No. I am so boring. I only have one piercing in my ears in the little part where I got it when I was 9. That's it. I'm boring. I know. I'm commitment phobic. and I am fickle in that I will like that extra piercing today and I will hate it in a week. Fair.
Though I do have a pretty big scar on my belly button from my belly button piercing that after having 3 kids,
Yeah.
I no longer wanted to call attention to my belly button.
Well, I can understand that. I don't know about yours, but my belly button ceased to exist.
Like an Audi?
No, like it was like flat. Because I have a really deep innie. And so when I was pregnant, it was just like flat.
I have a really deep innie too. My belly button was still there. My first husband said that my belly button ring, though, looked like a bathtub stopper. He just wanted to yank it, and then the baby was gonna just
drain.
come right out. Yeah. That was a visual. Sorry.
That was
audience.
A strong visual. Okay. Moving right along. Talking about this stuff, this murderabilia, is the stuff of serial killers or really bad people, mostly serial killers, clearly has market value. I had no idea. And when I started researching this episode, just in a quick, not even deep dive. I had 6 different websites that you could go and buy this stuff.
Oh, you're so
Crazy.
cute.
What?
You think the world is some kind of like fuzzy marshmallow place with no serial killer stores?
I want it to be a soft marshmallow-y place with no serial killer stores. Who buys this stuff? And I still don't really know because there's no research. I could not find any research about who these people really are that buy this stuff, but we can make some hypotheses.
Well, okay, we know that Johnny Depp has a Pogo the Clown, which is John Wayne Gacy.
Yes, John Wayne Gacy.
Paints the Pogo the Clowns.
Or
And
did. Is he still alive? He's not still alive.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And those are, I guess, valuable in the murderabilia market. Marilyn Manson has a Pogo the Clown, and that checks. That makes sense.
Sure.
You're going to need one.
Or his brand. Goes with his brand.
Yes, it goes with his brand. As far as regular people who buy it, I don't know. I think probably, I don't want to say a young person's going to buy a Pogo the Clown because those are going to be like $3,000, right? But I could see a young person purchasing hand tracing from one of these websites just to frame it and put it on the wall. And this is I listen to Marilyn Manson and wear a trench coat. Oh my God. Am I just insulting everyone today? People with gauged ears. And should we just start all over?
Maybe
and
we should
trench
start
coats?
all over. Yeah. And goth. We're not at all saying that anyone who wants to look in this way is. Oh God, you're just digging the hole deeper. Stop. As to be like everyone else, my dog is in the studio with us today.
It's a thing now.
It is a thing now because I would rather have him in here than whining and scratching at the door to get in.
Yeah, it's not like we rent studio space.
No.
With no dogs allowed.
With no dogs allowed. I thought it was very interesting only because I want to live in a world where there are no serial killer websites to sell stuff. I don't. And that kind of makes me a little sad. But again, it makes me more curious. Now, it makes me sad if I go down too deep and see some of that stuff you sent me. Whew, that was scary.
Do you listen to true crime? You don't?
Not on the regular.
Okay. But you are aware that it is like the most popular podcast topic.
I am.
So the fascination with the true crime, it doesn't seem like that big of a leap to go from being fascinated with it and listening to stories of it to actually having, I guess, a souvenir. I didn't find that surprising at all that people would want to purchase that.
I know. And that's where I was wrong.
I'm not saying, it's just funny that we're doing a podcast and everybody's into true crime. And you're like, what? Nobody likes true crime.
Okay, no. That was not my thing. Of course people like true crime. I just didn't think that they would want to personally own mementos.
And most of us don't.
Agreed. Most of us don't. But there's clearly enough of a market that many people do. If there were quickly 6 to 8 different websites that I could find on a one Google search that are selling this stuff, it's a bigger market than I thought. That's all I'm saying.
Well, remember how I used to be a terrible real estate agent, which is why I can't remember the word for it. But anyway, when someone is murdered in a home, there's a word.
Okay. Do we want to take a break and you look that up?
Shit.
All right. We'll be right back.
If you're a small business or you own a small business and you're listening to this podcast right now, you could sponsor us. And
this could be your space.
Yes, this could be your space. In Florida, for example, if you're selling a house, you're not required to disclose that a death occurred there, that a murder occurred there. You're also not required to disclose someone lived there who had HIV. These are things that people might mentally lower the value of the home over, but they're not a material fact. It doesn't actually affect the house. And in Florida, you're not required to disclose that. I don't know what it's like in other states.
Sure.
But after the digging we did on murderabilia, it seems like some people might want that house because a murder was committed there. So maybe these agents are just not advertising in the right
perhaps
in the right streams. I don't know. But your average family would decline a home where a serious murder. See, I don't know. Honestly, a house is different than a sweater. So if it was the perfect location within walking distance to schools and shop,
Gorgeous yard.
yes, and priced right, man, how heinous was this crime?
Sure. Okay, fair. So I'm
Our
really
kids gonna walk by and point to go, that's where it happened.
That's where it happened. This is where that research that I dug up came in. To start, the first study that I found to validate my own idea was a study from 1994. It's called, this is kind of dry, hang out for just a second, The Contagion Concept in Adult Thinking in the United States, Transmission of Germs and the Interpersonal Influence.
See, do we need that whole title?
Hello. It's kind of fun. This is studies. Studies are very wordy. The takeaway really
we do this podcast so they don't have to read studies.
But they're not reading it. They're just listening.
Okay.
Hang out there. You know me. Come
All
on.
right.
Let me be nerdy for just a second.
All right.
Anyway, the takeaway from this is that the majority of the people in this study, 1994, so it's been a while, felt that good and evil were very much like a physically contagious trait. And what they did was, and they did several different groups of people, they said, look at this sweater. Isn't this amazing? This is a beautiful sweater. This was worn by Mr. Rogers. I don't know if they said Mr. Rogers, but somebody that has a positive connotation. How much would this sweater be worth to you? And most of the people, who felt that Mr. Rogers was a positive guy, ranked that sweater as a higher value.
Than a sweater
off the rack. Exactly. Would you buy this sweater? Yes. How much would you pay for it? X number of dollars. If this was worn by Mr. Rogers on 25 episodes, the price even went up higher because he, it really was infused with his essence, so to speak. Then they took a different group of people, same sweater, by the way, and said, look, here's this sweater. This one was worn by Adolf Hitler. The value went no one wanted the sweater that was worn by Hitler. Same sweater, same exact sweater.
But what about the guy with the shaved head and the swastika on his forehead? Sorry, Nazi jokes are not funny.
Nazi jokes are really not funny. We're just going to gloss right on over that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, it kind of tapped into this idea that most of us have this magical thinking where we, on some level, and I thought that I didn't have this, but clearly I knew, on some level, we think that these inanimate objects, they've been in contact with somebody, good or bad. They've somehow infused the essence of that good or bad person. And we either want to be in touch with it because we think it's going to transfer some of that goodness to us, or maybe even some of that badness to us. And I just thought that was fascinating.
Now would be a good time to talk about Like Mike, actually.
Agreed. Okay. Yes. So let's talk about Like Mike, which is a cute little movie. I was trying to think of which studio put it out, but I don't remember.
We can look that up.
Yeah. We're not going to, but
we could.
We could. So that was Little Bow Wow, and he played an orphan that loved to play basketball, and he found, I think he found a pair of old tennis shoes that had the initials MJ like faded on the inside of the shoes, and he assumed that MJ stood for Michael Jordan. When he wore those shoes, he felt like he had the powers of Michael Jordan.
I think we're both logical thinkers, but I think if we were about to do something challenging, like for me, playing basketball would be extremely challenging because I've never played. If it was, an important game, this is like a dream. I don't know why I'm here and why everyone's counting on me to win this game, but I'm about to play basketball and I'm going to grab Michael Jordan's jersey or his shoes or something because why not? First of all,
if you've got access, go for it.
It's not going to make me play any worse. But yeah, so we're logical people and we know that his shoes aren't going to make us, but yet, I would much rather be wearing Michael Jordan shoes than Adolf Hitler's.
Absolutely.
Who strikes me as a terrible basketball player. Among other things that he did terribly.
Or, since we're talking about serial killers, I don't want to wear Jeffrey Dahmer's shoes. I don't want to wear Charles Manson's bracelet. I don't want anything to do with that, even though I'm a logical person. And
but what if you were a huge fan of true crime?
Even if I was I
don't want to wear shoes, but maybe.
I am not that kind of person. I don't really idolize celebrities so much. And I don't care about having somebody's autograph. I don't buy the tabloids. I don't want to hunt down pictures.
So a signed Ted Lasso poster, that does nothing for you.
No, I'm not going to buy it. I mean, someone gave it to me. I'm like, that's kind of cool, but I'm not going to. I just don't want to spend my money on that. Again, logical.
Okay. Look at historical artifacts.
Okay, so yeah.
I love walking through antique stores, and it's just, I don't know. They seem to be imbued with something.
For sure. And I think the majority of people believe this on some level of consciousness. This is not a new concept. I was also taking a look back, and we've been keeping stuff from people, like dead people, from heroes, from saints, since
Keeping stuff from people. I thought you were going to say we're about to drop some knowledge.
Yeah,
They've been
yeah,
keeping
well,
stuff from you.
we're going to do that too. However, I mean, since like ancient Greece, so there were some heroes in ancient Greece, and we kept their swords, we kept their shields, we kept some of their bones
I
and
have a
stuff.
house full of furniture from my Aunt Ruby.
Absolutely.
We'll say grandma.
I've got my grandma's salt shakers, salt and pepper shakers. I get it, because I love that woman.
You love that woman. What does that have to do with her salt and pepper shakers? To some extent, is it like a souvenir?
It just reminds me.
Exactly. You think of this person.
Exactly. It reminds me of her. It reminds me of sitting in her kitchen and using these little salt and pepper shakers. I loved her so much. But that's my family. That to me is a little bit different than going and saying, I want a Michael Jordan signed jersey.
What scientists call it is the contagion heuristic.
Absolutely.
And it is our tendency, and it falls under a spectrum of magical thinking.
It does.
And that was what I was surprised in my research to find out is magical thinking, you tend to think of as something that's indicative of mental illness.
But we've all been doing it for a really long time.
But this is actually very common. And as you and I decided, gorgeous sweater, we know logically that it's just a sweater, but tell me Hitler wore it and I don't want to wear this sweater.
Don't want to wear the sweater. No.
And it's tough to overcome, just like that bread that was dyed green that I couldn't eat. I knew logically it was just dyed and it was fine, but I couldn't bring myself to, no, I don't want to eat green bread. And I don't want to wear a Hitler sweater.
Yeah. So I think part of this comes from our evolution as humans, in that if we eat some green food and it makes us ill, we don't want to do that again. It's protective.
Mm-hmm.
How did we make that leap from, I don't want to eat some moldy stuff because it's going to make me sick, to, I'm going to keep the tooth of the Buddha, which is on display in a temple in Sri Lanka, because he was an enlightened being. And so therefore, if I'm in the presence of this, I could also become enlightened. I mean, really? This is a big jump.
I don't think they're, obviously, they're not consciously thinking, if I touch this tooth, I will become enlightened. Though actually rubbing the Buddha has been
a thing. For a long time.
And in fact, there are all kinds of holy artifacts and relics and things that people pray to and touch.
Oh, yes, it's a thing. And all throughout Europe, you can go to all different kinds of churches and find gold, mostly silver, encased remnants of saints that are considered very holy. That saint was touched by God. So if I touch this, guess what? I'm getting touched by God too, just a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So near us in St. Augustine, Florida, is a museum that we are both too chicken to go to called the Medieval Torture Museum. I mean, I've done like the online virtual tour, and that's enough because it's, I don't know, looking at these devices that were designed to torture human beings is just more than I want to, I don't know, mentally process. But I have a feeling that people walking through there, they probably do it for the same reason you would go through a haunted house. You're not going to be tortured in these things, and it's a curiosity, I guess.
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment. I don't even know if you're allowed to touch these things, but I
probably not.
I'm wondering how many people want to.
But you touched on this yesterday when we were talking and kind of planning this episode, in that haunted houses, museums, scary movies, you are physically safe. And you know that you're physically safe, but you get the thrill of the danger.
Like a little bit of adrenaline. It's kind of scary, but I know deep down inside that I'm safe. So I think that the people who are collecting this serial killer memorabilia are sort of following along that same path, in that I'm safe. This Christmas card or hand tracing or whatever isn't going to hurt me, but it conjures up a little bit of that excitement that you got from listening to that true crime podcast.
Maybe so. Back to the researchers, and I will not bother you with that too much more, but they came up with 3 different hypotheses as to why people want to purchase. They were talking about memorabilia, but they used it in either way, positive or negative. It applied to both. Number 1 was the entertainment factor, which we just touched on. The second one was investment, which I thought was really interesting. I think that collectors think, okay, if I buy Charles Manson's toenail clippings, gross. Today, if I buy these things today for $50, then in 5 years, somebody else is going to be willing to pay $100.
I have a hard time with the toenail clippings as well. I don't think that's going to be the piece that's going to increase in value.
But clearly, the John Wayne Gacy Pogo the Clown,
They have increased
they've
in value.
increased in value.
And also, I think, and again, we could have researched this, but we didn't. And you can also research it. But I'm pretty sure John Wayne Gacy's dead now. He's been executed or died in prison or something. And so therefore, there will be no more Pogo the Clowns. So now it's limited.
It's limited.
So when we have people who are currently in jail making hand tracings and giving them to these murderabilia resellers, they can make more of those, and so they're not that valuable right now. $10-$20 is what they appear to be going for on the website that I looked at.
And was that the Serial Killer Inc. that's here in Jacksonville?
Yes.
Oh, God.
Yes. So one of the big purveyors,
Like one of the biggest.
Yeah, of murderabilia lives right here in Jacksonville. We decided that if we were good journalists,
if we were actually journalists.
Yes, or journalists at all, we would call him, maybe even invite him on the show. I mean, he's done several interviews with our local news, whatever.
Yeah.
You can watch that. But we both decided we just don't want to.
Right.
We have no desire to talk to this guy.
I don't need to hear him justify why he thinks that making money off of this stuff is a-okay.
Guess, what is it? Murder something Inc. Well, anyway, doesn't matter. Don't say it, because guess who's not a sponsor of this show? It's this guy.
It's this guy, yeah,
So,
right.
But is based here in Florida. And in the interviews that he did, I found it interesting. There are certain things that he won't sell. He doesn't like serial killers that target children. He decided anything having to do with the Pulse massacre is just too close to home because he's a Floridian. Yet on this website, you can actually purchase crime scene photos. I mean, these are people's relatives, their bodies. You can purchase this stuff.
I know. And I thought that was very interesting. He did give the reason that he didn't want to anything related to the Pulse shooting because he, Floridian. Yet he's selling. What's the guy's name? Who is the? Oh, good God, I'm losing it.
It's the stalker guy.
The stalker guy. Yeah.
Oh, this is why we don't have a true crime podcast. We're bad at this.
Really why we should prepare more. Okay, we're going to take a little break right there. Like you were saying, you would never have to leave Florida because
podcast idea, serial killers of Florida.
There's so many. Is it because we have such nice weather? It's just nice to be outside down here. I don't know. I don't get it.
Well, there were quite a few in California too. I don't know.
Again, nice weather. I don't know.
I think I feel more stabby in dreary weather, but that's just me. I don't know. We'll research that for another one, another topic, another day.
Yeah. So the one I was trying to remember was Ramirez, who was
I thought he was the Night Stalker.
He's Night Stalker. Yes.
Guys, this is not a true crime podcast.
Can you say true crime one more time?
Well, I do want us to move up in the search.
I know.
Okay. You like true crime? You should be listening to something else.
The last theory on the, why do people buy this stuff? It was the contagion or the transference factor. It is a legitimate reason that people have a feeling on some level of their psyche that these things are somehow imbued with the essence of the celebrity, good or bad. And that if they own a piece of this, that they get a little bit of that cooties rubbing off.
Pick your favorite podcast host.
Shankar Vedantam, my
Really?
Hidden Brain. Right now, I just love him.
I love Hidden Brain. Yeah, that's a great one. So if he sent us, I don't know, something, a pen, a plaque, a shoe, not fingernail clippings. We've decided those are gross.
Those are gross. No, please.
But if he sent us something, would we have it here on our desk while we do our podcast?
Okay, we do have a whole bunch of photos of women and other people who actually mostly women.
There are
two
men.
guys.
Yeah.
There's two guys who have inspired us. Is that the same? I mean, these are just their photos.
I'm seeing Steve Martin and Colin Jost and, of course, Betty White.
Dolly
But
Parton.
they haven't.
But they didn't send those to us. Like, those are just photographs.
Each one of them is reminding us of something. It's not posted under there. We're supposed to just remember.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them have been subjects of
prior episodes.
But we admired certain trait about them.
Is our having these photos to remind us of the qualities that each of these people possess that we've admired, is that the same as Shankar sending us a plaque or a shoe?
That could be similar,
I
but
think so.
putting on, Michael Jordan's jersey, I don't know. I think that's a little bit more of the magical thinking. Like,
Yeah.
is this bordering on superstitions now?
Probably. Is
This
this
kind of the same
the
sort of magical
same
thinking
sort of
that,
magical thinking? I mean, did you ever have a rabbit's foot when you were a kid?
yes, though even as a child, it creeped me out
Me
because
too.
rabbits, I love
Rabbits.
them. They're cute and fuzzy.
And it's this actual little foot. I know,
Yes.
on a
And
key ring,
yeah.
black. What was I doing? I know.
So now I have to think about, instead of luck, now I'm thinking, oh, dead rabbit,
I know.
or, at least disabled rabbit.
I'm thinking dead rabbit.
I know, but we were special little empathetic
True.
children.
Very
It's like,
true.
here's your lucky rabbit's foot, and you're like,
I
oh, that's so
know.
sad. Okay, so not rabbit's foot, lucky penny.
Or a four-leaf clover. I used to love to look for four-leaf clovers, and when I would find one, I would think, "Oh, I've scored."
I don't think I've ever found one.
'Cause,
That explains a lot, right? No, not at all. Not at all. Okay, logical, rational.
Back to, who buys this stuff and why do they buy it? I did find a different study, but I will not bore you with, but it was a different study that talked about the disgust sensitivity scale. They found that people who are more likely to buy memorabilia, again, I could find no studies about people who buy this murder stuff. I don't know.
It could be anything like Chevy Chase's.
Yes, Michael Jordan's shoes, Chevy Chase's.
Yeah, I
What?
talk about today's celebrities just right there on the tip of my tongue.
Kim Kardashian's something.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, Kim Kardashian. Thank you
let's
for
think of someone who's actually relevant.
Sorry, Chevy. Family Vacation. Hilarious movie.
Colin Jost. Who buys Colin Jost's underwear? I don't know.
Like, I bought his book, but I think that's different.
I do think that's different. How about his autograph in the book?
Okay. Sometimes people pay more for a signed copy of something
Totally.
than they do
Just a regular
copy,
print edition. Absolutely.
because this person actually came into contact with this physical copy here. Okay, it's usually you that starts with back to, but I'm going to say back to murderabilia real quick. The people who are buying this, I think, especially if you're a fan of true crime, see a Charles Manson as a celebrity in the true crime world, and it just becomes another celebrity merchandise kind of thing.
Clearly it does. I was just very surprised to find that. Back to this whole
See?
What?
Back to, yeah. You have to say that or we'll just go off on a tangent.
All right, so the whole disgust sensitivity scale, this cracked me up. And the thought that if you score higher on this disgust sensitivity scale.
Okay, what's a disgust sensitivity scale?
It is a measurement of your feelings of disgust in certain situations.
How easy you are to disgust.
Yes. So disgust is a primary emotion. And there are different triggers and different categories of triggers for this. How easily are you made to feel that emotion?
I humored you and I sort of took this very informal quiz.
Oh, you did?
And I was actually surprised. I thought that I would score lower, that I'm harder to disgust, but it turns out, yes, but it did categorize things. And there were some categories that just overall, nothing really disgusted me. The hygiene category,
Yeah.
I found extremely disgusting.
I hear you.
Dr. Pimple Popper, I do not understand. So I feel about these kinds of shows the same way you feel about murderabilia. Like, who is watching this? Who wants to see this? Because I am disgusted.
Okay.
Absolutely disgusted.
Okay.
And I always will zip by it on Netflix or something because I'm afraid it's going to show me something.
That you don't
now
want to
Netflix
see.
kind of starts playing the trailer or something. Like, no.
They will start like playing the show.
Yes,
I'm like, stop
yes.
that. Why? Who thought that was a good idea?
I am terrified that I'm going to accidentally see something I don't want to see on there. I was always the one that, my husband, like, child's going to need stitches. I need help. I can't even. I'm okay with blood. Maybe that's a woman thing. We just get used to seeing more blood early on. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Or a mom thing too.
But pus,
is gross.
is really gross. And I mean, that just seems like obviously we've evolved to stay away from things that are full of bacteria. Like pus is not good for you. You should be disgusted by pus. So why are these people not disgusted by pus? I think that's weirder than the fact that I am disgusted by pus.
It's not a judgment on you either way.
Oh,
It's
I
just
know.
how
Mucus, not a big fan of mucus either.
I don't blame you there. The loogies, black. Oh, gross. So the different categories were, and you can go and take the Disgust test on our website. I will leave the link there so you can find it and take the Disgust test for yourself. All
So
right.
if anyone was ever wondering why we had a website, this is
There
why.
you go. All right, so the first category is atypical appearance triggers. Now, when you take this quiz, you want to score yourself on a scale of 0 to 10. So 0 doesn't disgust you at all, totally fine, no big deal. 10, you are so disgusted, you can't handle it.
Like me with Dr. Pimple Popper, I'm running out of the room.
You're running out of it. You're 10 out of 10 probably on Dr. Pimple Popper for sure.
Anyone in the audience, if I'm ever married to you and you ask me, hey, can you pop this zit on my back? I cannot. So
right, forget
if
about
that's important to you, it's not going to work out.
Sharing an elevator with a man with a disfigured face. Whatever. People are weird. People are different. It doesn't bother me.
Also, maybe it depends on the kind of disfigurement.
Oh, okay.
They say that this disgust comes from if someone had a disfigured face, they might have some communicable illness.
True.
Smallpox or leprosy or something. And so
Yep.
you should be disgusted by someone with leprosy. No offense, person with leprosy, but I don't want to get leprosy.
Exactly.
Something like a burn victim.
That's not going to rub off on you, but yet still, Freddy Krueger clearly showed us that the burn victim is frightening.
But also he had the knife finger things.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That was probably worse. And did he get the glove with the knife fingers just because he was all pissed off because people were mad at him or
oh god, it's been a while.
Him? Yeah.
It's been a while. One of the Elm Streets, you get his backstory too, and he apparently had a rough go of it growing up. I don't know.
Of course he did. I don't think he grew up in suburbia to become Freddy. I don't know.
No.
Freddy really bothered
suburbia
me.
Can produce killers, but I digress.
Very true. Okay, so the next thing, like sitting by a person with unkempt hair and disheveled clothing on the bus.
Unkempt? That's fine. That's normal.
I agree. If the smells get into it, then I have a problem. And that's a different category.
So again, I've had children, and so I've been around some unkempt hair.
Oh, bedhead's a thing.
Well, that's just like your daughter said, that's high school.
That's high school.
You've got some unkempt people. Some of them don't smell good.
Okay, so the category 2, and by the way, in the research that most people scored relatively low in that first category, that atypical appearance. Most of us are like, yeah, whatever, not a big deal.
So did we just waste everyone's time telling them about it?
No.
Maybe some people are like, I'm super sensitive and I could never sit by
probably
someone with unkempt hair.
Or mismatched clothes.
No mismatched clothes. Oh my God.
All right, so category 2 was food and animal triggers. Food and animal triggers scored higher on the disgusting scale for women and men, both of them. If you crack open a boiled egg and you find a partially developed chick inside. See, I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I would be. I feel.
I don't
sad.
intentionally buy those. So you can go to.
Yes.
There was an Asian market by my house, and they intentionally were selling eggs that were almost ready to hatch. It's obviously not disgusting to the people who are buying them and think of them as delicacies. It's disgusting to us because we've always seen egg with no fetal chick in it.
Chick inside. Absolutely. I would not be disgusted. I would be surprised because again, we don't usually buy those. I've never seen one.
Getting something that you aren't expecting is often shocking.
That's true.
I don't think I'm overly afraid of, snakes or squirrels or anything, but if one's in the house and you're not expecting it and starts moving, you're alarmed.
So that was another question, finding a dead mouse in the corner of your kitchen. That would make me feel a little bit of disgust, only because I'm like, where are my pest control people? We live in Florida. There are critters here, and they want to be inside in the air conditioning with us. It is a constant struggle.
Again, with the smell, like how decomposed is this mouse?
Right. How dead is it?
Yes. You could also, neither of us have a cat.
No.
It's not that we hate cats. We just happen to not have cats. Sometimes a cat or a Charlie could even.
I'm
Your
pretty
dog
sure.
could bring one in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Charlie would love to do that.
And I have had cats in the past, and anyone who has cats knows that sometimes they will bring you gifts,
Oh, for sure.
aka dead mice.
Yes. Or pieces of dead
Speaking
mice.
of your dog, I think you might have a little gas.
I know. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh.
I'm a little disgusted right now.
Okay. Back to the smells.
Right. Yeah.
God, dog farts.
Dog
Just
farts.
what we needed today. One thing in this category that I found very disgusting was pouring lumpy spoiled milk onto your coffee
see,
or
pouring
into your
it
cereal.
doesn't bother me so much as accidentally drinking it. I've done that before.
Oh, God.
I remember I was a child. I got a carton of milk and just chugged it back because we had milk for thirst back then. And just chugged it before I realized that it was chunky and spoiled. And that, I mean, has stuck with me for many decades.
How did you not vomit right after that?
Maybe, I don't know if I vomited. There was a lot of retching in the sink. I recall that. A lot of mouth rinsing. It was bad. But just seeing it. So now I get the non-homogenized cream top milk.
Yeah.
And so sometimes chunks come out that aren't bad chunks. They're just like little fat chunk. That part doesn't automatically trigger me.
Gotcha.
The chunkiness.
I'm not a big dairy fan to begin with. And I told you the story about when I used to put dairy in my coffee and I had the little creamer that was in the little tiny.
Aren't kids cute?
Kids are so cute. Yes. So this was during my children's prank phase because kids go through a prank phase. Anyway, I used to put cream in my coffee and had a little tiny creamer in a little cardboard container. And I was really tired one morning and I get up and I'm making my coffee and I unscrew the thing and I go to pour the cream into my coffee and it's bright green. And I remember going, whoa, like what the... because my children had put green food coloring into my creamer.
So this is interesting. You score higher on disgust in this section, but otherwise very low in disgust, particularly with bodily things.
Oh, sure.
And I don't know. I'm just going to play devil's advocate. Is it because you worked in healthcare for many years?
Totally. Yeah.
And you're simply desensitized
completely
to
all of it. You can't spend 30 years in healthcare, which I did.
Right. And I will say my youngest sister is the type who would watch Dr. Pimple Pop. Like she asks,
I love it.
Like, I see you've got a thing. Can I? And I'm just like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? And she really hasn't spent any time in healthcare. She's just weird. Wow. Oh, and on the animal disgust thing, from personal experience, we're both dog people. I am what some people would call the nasty kind of person who I would share my ice cream cone with my dog. I mean, I just am not that disgusted by my dog's mouth or dog stuff. My dog sits on my couch. My dog sleeps in my bed. Okay. I'm that kind of weirdo. I have also met
I'm that weirdo too.
I have also met people who one time I fed my dog at their house. Were over. It's time for dinner. Borrowed a plate. Dog was finished with the plate. I go to put it in the dishwasher. He takes it out of my hand and drops it in the trash can. Threw the plate away because my dog ate off of it.
What?
And it's like, if you only knew what my dog and I do when you're not around.
Oh my God.
I know.
That seems crazy to me.
And my older sister, she's not this bad anymore. I think I've always been a dog person. She sort of grew into one. And this was probably been 20 years ago, but I was unloading groceries into my pantry and I put the cans of dog food in the pantry, on the left side and my other canned pantry goods on the right side. Right. And she's like, oh, you keep your dog food next to your people food?
It's in a can.
I was like, it's in a can. What?
Are you going to stumble in there and mistakenly grab a can of dog food?
Right.
I mean, hello?
No, I am not. Yeah, like I thought it was tomatoes and it was dog food. Like, no, of course not.
Yeah. The big picture of the dog on the can is the clue.
These people were so disgusted by the dog eating so near where we eat.
All right.
So kiss your dog on the face. I'm pretty sure that's keeps you from getting COVID.
Yeah, sure. Let's put that one out.
Yeah.
Let's put
all the disinformation out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But I'm the same kind of weirdo. I love my dog.
I do give my dog ivermectin for heartworm. So
I was looking at that. I just gave Charlie his ivermectin for heartworm because once a month he gets that and he chomps it right down, loves it. I'm thinking, oh, okay, great.
It was a measured dose just for dogs, by the way, not intended to cure or treat COVID. Okay. Anyway.
A nice little disclaimer.
Yeah, that's for heartworms.
It is for heartworms. Anyway, but I'm that same kind of weirdo. I love my dog. I would let my dog lick my ice cream. I let him sleep in my bed. But I don't want your dog to lick my ice cream or sleep
That's
in
true.
my bed.
I mean, I've wiped my kids' runny noses, but I don't want to wipe your kids' runny nose.
Exactly.
I would. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have actually taught preschool, and those kids
Sure.
get runny noses. And
Yeah.
you, first of all, it's more disgusting to me to watch the tots run around with snot
Oh,
hanging out of their nose. So
absolutely. Oh, gross.
the only way to fix it is to go wipe that nose.
Wipe that nose. Yeah. And so, okay, so the category 3 was sexual triggers. We don't have to go over that because none of those things bothered us. And it was
If you're
very,
disgusted by the amount of partners that someone's had, first of all, I think that's a different kind of disgust. That's
I
not
think that's a judgy disgust. I
that's a-
think that's a
yeah.
condescending disgust.
Oh, you disgust me. Like when I
Right.
say that, I mean that in a different way than
Yeah,
I'm gonna hurl.
I'm gonna hurl. Right.
That's a completely different kind of disgust. And secondly, I'm not disgusted by any of that. I don't know those people's lives or what they do, and it's none of my business.
Totally. And, if you want to talk about the gender gap, men are praised for having as many sexual partners they possibly can get, and women are condemned for doing the
Okay,
same.
so we're going to talk about the gender gap too, because this is going to be a very long episode.
That's all I'm going to say about it. I thought it was very interesting and not surprising that sexual triggers were higher for women versus men. Duh. Also, those who identify as politically conservative and religious had higher disgust scores in the sexual category. Of course. Been conditioned from our Puritan roots to be disgusted by sex, that we should only do that for procreation and hello. Anyway.
If you want to have a lesbian orgy,
go
do it. I may or may not choose to participate in it. I mean, if it was you personally, I'd be offended if I wasn't invited. But
you would be the first one on the list.
And I may or may not accept it, but I want to be invited.
Yeah. Okay. Last category, and this is where we both scored, I think, highest, were the general hygiene triggers. I want to go through these just because they're great. Okay, so seeing snotty tissues left on the kitchen table. My answer was it depends. If those are snotty tissues from my kids, fine, I've seen that 1,000 times. If I've gone to a Chick-fil-A or a Burger King and there's a table with a bunch of what appears to be used tissues, I am not touching that with a 10-foot pole. No.
Also not sponsored by Chick-fil-A or Burger King.
A fast food restaurant. How about that? So the second one was you watch someone sneeze a big glob of snot into their hand. I just think that's hilarious. I have seen that happen, and it's funny.
It all depends on what they do next.
That's true. That's
100%. I mean, the glob of snot in your hand is going to happen. It's what do they do next that makes or breaks this whole experience.
Yes. Wiping it onto their jeans.
Okay, that's gross.
That's a kid move.
And can I say that of all the things that we've talked about, kids are the most disgusting.
Oh my God, they really
Children
are.
are disgusting. Teachers must have great immune systems.
Yeah. Okay, the next one was watching someone pick their nose, which again, I think is hilarious. I have seen that so many times in traffic. You're sitting in a traffic light and you look over and someone is just digging in there.
Okay, so that's funny, but in traffic, I can't really see the stuff. Yeah, so it's just
the act.
It's the act. The act doesn't bother me. That's a human thing.
Sure.
Sometimes you got to pick stuff out of there.
I just think it's funny that we think that we're invisible when we're alone in our cars.
That's true. I'm not invisible in my car.
Okay, and then here's the one that really got me. On the subway, you're forced to stand close to someone with strong body odor and greasy hair. Oh my God, the smells.
Smells. Can't do smells.
Oh, I cannot do smells.
I would 100% rather stand next to someone with body odor than someone with a strong cloying perfume, though. Body odor is gross, but it doesn't give me the instant headache that old lady perfume will.
Man, that's a tough one for me. I don't want either one of them. I really don't. Smells are terrible. Terrible.
And if you have a smell, it's very difficult to keep that in your personal bubble. You know what I mean? And it's now in my bubble and
it's in everyone's bubble. All right, so how do we want to wrap this up? I don't think it's too surprising that we become less disgusted with stuff over time and repeated exposure.
Sure.
I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff. I've had to deal with a lot of stuff and
doesn't really
moms
get less grossed out about snot and medical professionals get less grossed out about everything. I assume, rashes and
pretty much any bodily function, bodily fluid, bodily thing. You just see so much of it that it doesn't really bother you anymore. The smells still get me though. Whew.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard that before too. The smells still get you.
Yeah.
How do you overcome that sound biological desire to stay away from things that might make you sick? Like germs.
Personal protective equipment. I can touch absolutely anything if I've got a pair of gloves on. I can pick it up. I can handle it. I can do anything if I've got a good pair of rubber gloves on.
I do feel a lot more invincible with my rubber gloves on. And we didn't even talk about, seeing someone vomit will often make a person vomit.
That is true. And
Seeing it, not so much. Smelling it, now that might do it.
I can see it, I can hear it, but smelling it, oh, that's rough. Yeah.
Well, I think we've learned something. Is our smell is our most disgusted sense.
Yes. Yes. And it's been, my sense of smell has changed over my life. When I was younger, I still had that revulsion, that disgust from yucky smells. But since I have had children, that was the tipping point for me. We had to sell a car because
I know that is a really funny story.
It's great. So, we had this sweet little Mini Cooper, adorable car. Once I became pregnant, I could not stand the smell of the interior, just the plastics.
And you thought it would get better afterward.
I thought it would get better. So I basically just, switched cars with my husband. He drove the Cooper and I drove his car. I thought it would get better after the baby was born. No, I couldn't do it. Like it made me vomit to be in the car.
It seems to become maybe not permanent, but it definitely lingers after you're not pregnant anymore.
Oh.
And so I thought it was funny that when I was pregnant, I had asked for this perfume. There was a perfume that I wanted for my birthday. And I get this perfume and open it. And of course, I cannot stand it because now I'm pregnant and I will never be wearing this perfume. And I felt so wasteful. And you had to get rid of a car. I just had to get rid of a bottle of perfume. And that also seems like it could be another episode, how pregnant ladies smell a thing and then done forever.
We called it dog nose. I felt like I could just smell everything. It was crazy.
Yeah, but my dogs seem to be attracted to stinky things.
Right, instead of repulsed. Back to the nerdy in me, a little bit of that in the disgust. We become easier to disgust during ovulation and pregnancy. And the researchers thought that it was a little bit about our weakened immune system, because our immune system goes down when we're trying to get pregnant and when we are pregnant so that we don't reject our babies.
See, I didn't realize that we were also more sensitive when we're ovulating, other than we are trying to pick up pheromones, to smell those right pheromones.
Yes, to pick the right man. I don't know. I just think that's so interesting.
Well, to use back to again, back to dog farts.
Speaking of dog farts. God.
Your dog will fart and it will make your eyes water, like just happened to us with your dog. The dog seems oblivious to it. But but sometimes I fart next to my dog and my dog looks incensed and gets up and walks away. And I'm like, if you can't, take it, don't dish it out. I could drain my own boil or pimple or, stay in a small room with my own fart, but someone else's fart or boil or pimple is really
a problem.
That's going to be a problem. And I think that's probably a weirdly human thing. I think we're
so
probably okay with our own disgusting things.
And our children's disgusting things and our dogs' disgusting things. But
yes.
Not so much with strangers.
You're right. I'd much rather have my own dog slobber than someone else's dog slobber.
For sure. All right, weirdos. I think that's it for today. This has been another...
because this is devolving rapidly.
Really quickly. So this has been another episode of Weirdly Human. Thanks so much for joining us. We love ya. Bye.
Bye. Kids are loving...
I know.
Friends. I know. I sound 1,000 years old right now. The kids today. They're watching Friends. They're watching Friends.